Welcome in, everyworm. I'm SquishableMoon, your shooting star worm on a string with a ranch diction, fewer brain cells than the common garden snail, and welcome back to my channel. And this is part of me trying to flesh out my book characters to make my characters more 3D and better as a whole. If you don't know, hi, I'm Squishy and I wrote a book called Fuzzbucketz. It's a book about a worm on a string named Starlight who was born without the ability to use magic. One day, an evil magic-eating slime destroys her home, and she must seek out the help from faraway places to find out how to get rid of it before it destroys all magic as we know it. She will need the help of her friends Acorn, Bubbles, and Sparkfire, and even Blueberry to solve this mystery together. Before we get into this video, I do want to tell you that this is a spoiler warning. If you haven't read my book, this will contain spoilers. If you don't care, then feel free to enjoy. Today we are going to be working on the character Ambrosia. This character is based off of a few different things: Queen Bee from Hell of a Boss, honeybees, and some furry artwork I found on Pinterest, Google, and Facebook. You'll be able to see my references behind me as I draw this character. But if I had to be honest, my biggest inspiration for this character is a villain from Powerpuff Girls. Does anyone remember the character known as him? I used to adore this character when I was watching the show. He was always so fun to watch, and I really liked how his personality was different than other male characters on Cartoon Network. So the first thing, Ambrosia is a honeybee-inspired queen character. I have always loved honeybees and bumblebees. I legit have two other characters in my book that are bee-themed. One being a purse sprite that is like a type of bug, and the other being a worm on a string bee. Now, the reason I made this character is for book 4. If you don't know, I am currently publishing book 2 soon of my series. It will either be for book 4 or book 5. I haven't decided yet. This book will be about animal-themed worm on a strings like raccoons, bunnies, and other animals. However, I want there to be a city or kingdom just for the bug-type characters and worms. Kind of similar to changelings from My Little Pony. By the way, did anyone else love the changelings from My Little Pony? Legit loved their idea and thought they were so creative. Literally loved them. Some of my favorite characters in the show. So the first thing I want to say, even though Ambrosia is a queen bee, Ambrosia is not a female honeybee. Now, I know how bees work and how they become female queen bees, but why follow the rules when I can make a male queen bee? If you don't know, honeybees create a new queen by selecting a young female, 1 to 3 days old, and feeding it exclusively with special nutrient-rich food called royal jelly. This diet triggers genetic changes that develop her reproductive organs, allowing her to mature into a queen bee rather than a working bee. A fun fact, if you didn't know, male honeybees do not have stingers, so only the females have stingers because it is basically an egg-laying organ. I thought that was really cool. Their stingers are ovipositors. I sure didn't know that until today. I honestly thought it was really interesting. For some reason, I assumed all worker bees, at least for honeybees, were male, and I thought only the queen was the female. I have no idea why I thought that. It makes much more sense that some of the bees would be female, because we don't really need a bunch of male animals to have babies, but regardless, still thought that was interesting. Anyway, not only is Ambrosia a male bee, but he is also a drag queen honeybee. So he highly enjoys female clothes and dressing up in female attire. Now, how does this work for Hive City where she rules? Basically, Ambrosia was mistaken for a female queen bee at birth, and he just never ended up correcting anyone. Now, like I have said before, I want to include every type of person I can in my books, and I like the idea of adding a male character who just enjoys wearing female clothes. If you don't know what drag is any performance art and a form of self-expression where individuals use makeup, costumes, and performances to exaggerate gender expression, typically for entertainment. Rooted in LGBT culture, drag often defies traditional gender norms, though not limited to drag queens, which are feminine, and drag kings, which are masculine. I have always loved drag makeup, and I really wanted to add a character with this skill to my book. Personality-wise, I definitely want them to be very flamboyant and kind of over the top. Like, I think they would be basically treated as a pop star or something similar to that, since drag queens usually lip sync to songs and music and put on a performance for other people. Personally, kind of similar to Angel Dust, but without any of the sexual comments and any of the trauma. He is definitely way into himself and thinks he is the prettiest person in the kingdom, and definitely thinks that his worth is tied to his looks, even though he is a really great ruler. While most of the time he is in drag or feminine attire and helps rule the kingdom or city, I like to think that he sneaks out sometimes. Now, a thing about my book that I have to explain whenever I make a video of my book like this, if you have not read my books, in my book, every kingdom or place of massive power has a crystal shard from a fallen star. This star is where all magic comes from. Now, whenever you are in contact with the crystal's magic for a very, very long time at close proximity, this gives you anthropomorphic qualities. So every queen, king that has a shard is able to turn into an anthro version of themselves, but they can also turn into a regular version and shift between the two. So whenever Ambrosia isn't off being the epitome of a queen, of elegance and finery, he likes to run a little shop to do makeup and sell clothes. I like to think that he has a hobby where he likes to sew clothes and do makeup for others because that's what his true passion is, but he just also happens to run the kingdom. Now, the city or kingdom, I haven't decided if it's going to be a full-blown kingdom yet or whatever I want to do with it. But I do want to have, I do want the kingdom to be full of bug characters. I was thinking about calling the city or kingdom Honey Spire. There's something along, just something along the lines of Honey Spire or Honeycomb or some type of honey name, because it's run by a queen bee and most of the inhabitants are bee themed because, hives have a lot of bees. I imagine that they do have a castle where Ambrosia lives, and it kind of looks similar to Queen Bee's house from Hell of a Boss, where there is like a honeycomb everywhere or there is a nest in the back. Now, of course, bees are not going to be the only types of worms that are going to be living in this kingdom or city. I want there to be every kind of bug imaginable, and I want there to be butterflies, I want there to be beetles, I want there to be every kind of bug imaginable, because I think it would be cool to have more bug characters in media. I know bugs get a bad rap sometimes because they're not as cute or fluffy as like cats or dogs. But I still think bugs have their place in the world, and I think some of them look pretty cool. Now, while we're ending this video, I do have 2 questions for you guys. The first question, do you think having a character that does drag in a children's book is too controversial? Or do you think having a character that does drag is just having more representation for the LGBT community? Second question, how can I make this character better? What can I add to this character to make them more 3-dimensional and better as a whole? And or what would you like to see from them in the book? With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed me yapping and ranting about my characters because I really enjoy talking about them. I know these videos are kind of short, but they're still fun to make. With that being said, thank you for watching. I hope all your dreams come true. Bye bye.